Okay. Thank you both for going through our school's form. Please, what were your observations about it? What do you think is good in it? What's missing in it? Those types of things. How would we compare it to the previous three forms that we've looked at?
So I do like that this one has a lot more information that administrators are looking for, but at the same time, just the format of it almost feels overwhelming when you go to read it because there's so much stuff to filter through. Sometimes it feels like you've gotten some feedback, but it's hard to figure out exactly what feedback you're receiving from them on these forms. And I don't like at the very end where it just like it does include, I will say I do like that it sees the success in the teacher and highlights that, but at the same time, it assumes there is a gap with the teacher. Which I don't always like when these forms assume a negative aspect of what's going on. It could just I think it could be rewarded as more of like an opportunity for growth.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
And I'm not sure if this form is for every school in the district, but it feels like it kind of is. I would prefer if the district had a couple questions, couple things they were looking for, no matter what, across the board at every, I understand that they want that alignment, but at the same time, if it was kind of married with a few campus specific questions for things that and I know the problem of practice is kind of there, but if you don't remember offhand what the problem of practices, the way that question is worded, I don't know. I guess they would give more feedback and write it out, but I feel like we need a question directly, like that discusses what that is, what they want to see. I think that would add more clarity for the teachers as well, but I think it's a little too generic.
Okay. Thank you both for that. Um, Looking at that form, like you guys said, there's actually a lot in it. Um, there's a lot of feedback in there. I appreciate that each of the different sections, there's a little room for comments, brief comments and notes. I think that can really add a lot. And at the very end, the success part of it is there. Like Mr. Shelton said, probably like room for growth or something like that would be best there. And I think the last one is like action plans. So possible action plans or strategies to use at a different time. I like that that's also there. Now, the most essential part, looking at all of the forms that we've looked at on our own school form, if we were making a better form or the ideal form for our own school, not looking at what's been used in our district, but for our own school, what kind of things would you guys put in it? And we can like refer to form one. I think this should absolutely be in there. This should absolutely be in there. This should absolutely be in there across the four forms that we've looked at. So if we want to take a minute to look back at those forms and see what would the ideal form, going back to what Ms. Anspa just said, that our own school's form looks like maybe it's too generic for the district, but what does our own campus need? What would be the best for our campus, keeping in mind the needs of our campus, that we do have a lot of new teachers um, on our campus. We're going through a lot of professional development, ensuring that every teacher has the basics down very strongly, and that all our students are learning well. We do have at least 80% of our students that are labeled as being at risk academically, and we want to ensure that they're successful both at our school and going into high school and throughout their lives. So, keeping all of that in mind, um, if we can take a look at those forms, how many minutes do you guys think we would need?
I feel like I'm pretty good to go on that.
Yeah, same. I think I can. Yeah.
Okay, so we can just dive right into it.
I really like on the forms, like I like when it's like a clear one pager, if that makes sense of like these are the main things that we're looking for. And there
Mhm.
is somewhat of a checklist of things, but at the same time, a checklist that is accompanied with clear feedback about that, kind of the more these are the best practices that we want to consistently see happening in the classroom. Um, I feel like also with this that like really because we are such an early career campus, focusing on the management aspect of a classroom and how that is affecting the instruction in the classroom. I feel like sometimes these walkthrough forms, especially the one we currently have, focuses so heavily on, do you have the standard? Do you have the success criteria, the learning objective, and all that stuff? But it doesn't really assess deeply how the teacher is influencing behavior in the classroom and managing students, and how that in turn would affect the real learning taking place.
Thank you so
That's-
much.
I agree. And I think part of that comes from a previous administrator that we had for her personal coaching sessions, not so much like the district walkthrough, kind of showed me some of her forms she would use. And basically it was differentiated. So if you're brand new to the school, there was just some simple non-negotiables and a lot of like little things with like, are the learning, whatever the intentions up, is the agenda there? Do they have a do now, a main lesson, exit ticket type thing? But classroom management was at the top of the list for a brand new teacher. And then as she worked with other teachers, you know, if they had been at the school a few years, she would focus a little more on instruction and the instructional strategies in the class. But I think that's not a bad idea to have differentiated walkthrough forms and to focus on some specific skills with new teachers and then build upon that with our more experienced teachers. And I think they would appreciate that as well, because we hear a lot of feedback about we don't get enough differentiated PD, and I think those things align kind of.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ms. Evans about having something that's differentiated for teachers. I think it'll make feedback more meaningful if it's more aligned to where they are in their career, because we definitely know early career teachers need a lot more structured sound advice on how to succeed, whereas more veteran teachers require more fine-tuning on how they can get better.
Thank you both for that. That is very insightful. I've actually never thought about that before, to have a differentiated form and use it appropriately and accordingly. So thank you for that. But if we were saying that the form would be for everybody, that's not going to be differentiated, what would that ideal look like? And I think you guys have touched on that, adding more of classroom management. Given that that's one of the needs of our campus, and probably a little bit less of a focus on standards. I mean, they should be there. We should document that they are there, but a little bit less of a focus on that and more on other things. Thank you. Is there anything else that you guys think should go into the form? I appreciate Mr. Shelton saying having it be a one pager, be succinct, have the checklist, but also room for comments under each section.
Yeah, well, just as you mentioned before, again, because we've received a lot of feedback from teachers, I really think whatever, maybe the final comment should be something positive, no matter what they saw, something positive, just to help boost the teacher a little bit, because I just know it's ruined many people's day when they get a walkthrough in the middle of teaching and they feel like it's all negative, even if it's not that bad. If there's nothing positive on there, the way they might perceive it could be kind of negative, and then they're upset, and it just I don't know. And that I don't think they look at the feedback as critically and don't use it as much to help them grow as a teacher when they just think it's all negative and like the admin's against them. So I think positive reinforcement is a amazing tool that admin could use to their advantage.
Thank you. Awesome. I'm jotting that down, and we'll include that in the form. I did want to say, in terms of format, do you guys think the format for number 2 would be best as opposed to number 1, like compared to number 1, from number 2 versus from number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I like number 2 just as a bit more a meatier chunk of information of like, these are the things we're looking for or what we're seeing. So I think it does make it a little more efficient of a form. But I do really like that the emphasis that appears on number 1 is, well, actually, never mind. I'm not gonna, no. I do like that number 1 makes admin provide evidence of what they're seeing and not just checking a box. But I think it's too short, whereas number 2 is a bit more full picture of the teacher.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
To your point, I don't remember if it's in the bottom of this one. There was one, I feel like in the past where if you receive feedback and you wanted to, or maybe it was a form an admin made themselves, I don't remember, but if they saw something and you knew the lesson was different, you could go and provide feedback to support some of the things. So you'd have a bit of an exchange. I like that. Or so if a admin did need clarification, they said, can you please respond? Like, I have a question about this lesson. Maybe I didn't see the whole thing, because especially when they come in sometimes for like a minute and a half, and then you get a lot of, that way, it just creates a collaborative process, I guess is the best way to put it, to assess what's happening in the classroom. But I would love it if there's a spot, I know it's a one pager, but somewhere where you could take a picture of something you see in the classroom or whatever to connect to the form. I like that too.
Okay, thank you. And the feedback process, walkthrough feedback process, it's supposed to be collaborative. And that's what the feedback time would be for, between the administrator and the teacher, to go through that form and talk through it, and actually see if it's accurate, whether the teacher's thoughts on it, and if they could provide more evidence. But definitely adding something on there for the teacher to respond, give their comments, their thoughts, and write that out, possibly adding some pictures or other kind of evidence to support their point. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that you guys would think would be important?
I think I've mentioned most of the things I feel like are important.
Okay. Awesome. So the form, it's not physically made right now, but it is going to be made shortly. It's going to be looking more like number 2, but incorporating all of the things that you all have mentioned, having that space for notes and comments, focusing a little bit less on standards than our current form, having that space for a teacher response, teacher notes, thoughts, having the administrator final comments be positive. All of those things will be reflected in the new form. So, any other closing thoughts that you guys have? Okay. So, thank you both so much. I will actually be creating that form physically, putting it together based on all of the feedback that you both have given this evening. So, thank you so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. And we'll be sharing what that form looks like with you both. And that form is going to be used shortly for part 2 of this project. But thank you both for this evening. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you. Ms. Anspa, if you can stop the recording, that would be wonderful.
Yes, I'll stop the recording and